weakened when she was tired or stressed. At the moment, she was both. "Of course," I said, wanting to alleviate her anxiety. "What do you need?" "Felix and we will be here at 3:30. I couldn't help flinching. She meant 3:30 a.m. She'd also said here, which meant she hadn't actually left the bread shop for the day. And she'd be turning around and going right back in a little more than 6 hours. No wonder she sounded exhausted. I worked part-time at Yeast of Eden, mostly to absorb all that Olaya had to teach me, but also for a little extra income as I grew my freelance photography business. Olaya had grown up in Mexico and had learned traditional long-rise bread techniques. When I'd first returned to my hometown, she had helped save me from the grief of losing my mother. I'd become fascinated by the breadth of her skills and the power of her baking. And I'd caught the fever. From making a proof with yeast, sugar, and water, to digging my hands into a mound of soft dough, to shaping and baking, the entire process was cathartic and healing. Still, the early mornings were not my favorite thing about the job, and usually I didn't have to get up before the roosters. Felix Macron was Olaya's right-hand man and true apprentice. He and his small crew came in at 4:30 every morning, except Sundays and Mondays, the shop's days off. That was bad enough, but 3:30 was cringeworthy. "What are we baking?" I asked, trying not to let my lack of enthusiasm at the early hour creep into my voice. She rattled off a list of 4 or 5 holiday breads, then added a few cookies. "Cookies?" I repeated when she'd finished. Olaya made chocolate croissants and the occasional sweetbread, but other than her ever-present skull cookies, she didn't do traditional bakery items. "The woman hosting the party is, private. She wants only a few servers at the event. The person I spoke with, the assistant, she requested cookies, so I agreed." Just because someone asked for cookies didn't mean Olaya would provide them. The fact that she had agreed showed just how unusual this situation was, but I went with it. "Okay, cookies it is." "And anyone involved? We all must sign a paper of some kind." "What kind of paper?" "A legal paper." Something clicked. "Oh, like a non-disclosure agreement?" "Precisamente," she said. "Non-disclosure. That is what she said." Interesting. Who's hosting this party? "That I will tell you tomorrow, after you sign. 6:30 for you, yes?" Inside, I heaved an enormous sigh of relief at the 3 extra hours of sleep I'd get. "See you then," I said, and went off to bed, all the while contemplating who this high-profile party host was. 18 hours later, I stood in the festively decorated dining area of Yeast of Eden. Evergreen garlands tied with blue and silver bows hung in swaths around the windows. Delicate snowflakes hung from the ceiling. And Maggie Jewel, a part-time worker, was dressed like an elf, complete with bells on the tips of the curled toes of her green shoes. She stared at me as if I had just granted her a dying wish. "Are you serious?" she asked. "A holiday party?" I fiddled with the settings on my camera, looked through the eyepiece, and snapped a picture of her, mouth agape. Dead serious. I pressed a button to look at the image on the camera's digital screen. Maggie had recently graduated from high school, started at the local community college, and cut her dark hair, taking it from shoulder blade long to pixie short. She'd added a thin nose ring to her array of ear piercings, each more visible now with her boyish haircut. She generally kept her small dragonfly tattoo on her collarbone covered, but once in a while, like now, it peeked out for the world to see. Her hands fluttered frenetically. "But Eliza Fox is a bona fide movie star." The bell on the bread shop's door dinged, and a woman in a red sweater, a young boy in tow, came in. Maggie pulled herself together, put her fingers to her lips, and turned an imaginary key of silence, but her